how to completely fuck up a 22B. Hey guys, it's Matt here from the WRX Cult, and I'm here with Kyle from Flat 4. And this is not my 22B. This is actually somebody else's 22B, but Kyle and the owner has allowed us to come and film it. And it's always good to compare. When you've got a 22B, what does another one look like? So Kyle, now that you imported my 22B, you've now become the go-to for 22Bs, right? In Southeast Queensland.
Yes, yeah.
Right? What's the story behind this car?
Yeah, so this one here, a lot of people in Australia have probably seen this one, but this was up on a Australian auction site, collectingcars.com.au. So yeah, a customer called us and said, hey, I've bought this 22B, it's up in Brisbane near you guys, do you mind going and picking it up for us? So we said, sure. He'd seen the videos we'd done with your one, so he said, look, can you go over it, let us know what's been done to it. I know it's got a 6-speed, I know it's got Brembos, and I know it's got a big bonnet scoop, but that's about all I know.
But we want to say too though, that the car, when I said how to fuck up a 22B, it's because the original Japanese owner has done...
he's gone to town on it.
He's got a lot of modifications on it, and some of them you probably won't agree with. I certainly don't. And the new owner has said to Kyle, look, here's this 22B, which has got a lot of modified parts, and we will go check it out, but bring it back to original, is that right?
Original, yep. So he said, look, I've really wanted one, I've got other cars, this is a nice Japanese, icon, let's take it back to stock, let's get it all original in the best possible condition.
Okay, so stay tuned guys, let's go and have a really deep look into this fucked up 22B.
So one of the main things with this was the front mount intercooler. So when I went and picked it up, the first thing I saw was a front mount on it, and instantly I'm thinking, please, 22 bumper, please do not be too chopped up that we can't fix it. So luckily there's only a little bit of trimming done on that bar to fit a front mount, so we were lucky in that regard. Yeah, everything on this thing is modified. So we've got it had like a sort of aftermarket intercooler sprayer on the front of it. The headlights have been changed and modified. There's LED lights and stuff in it. The motor, we've got a twin scroll turbo set up on this. We've got not an aftermarket, but a different sump on it. Oil filter relocation, oil cooler, which is now up on top where the factory top mount would have been. One of the biggest things is the 6-speed. So you pop under here, you'll see that it's got the 6-speed GD STi box in it, much bigger, a lot different to the 5-speed that would have been in it. We've got coilovers, we've got Brembos, we had all sorts of aftermarket suspension components and bracing under here. I mean, what else? Roll sensor correction, tie rod ends have been changed to like a rose jointed.
But one of the biggest things you notice is these...
The bracing, yeah. So we've got Cusco panels underneath here. So from the popular Japanese tuning brand Cusco, those are on there. There was heaps of bracing under here. Matty, if you have a look on the floor, they had aftermarket under tray, H-brace, GD STi bonnet scoop, the big bird catcher.
Not that scoop.
It's cardinal sin to put them on GC8s, but each to their own. Definitely not my personal choice, but yeah. So
hence why it's coming off.
Hence why it's coming off. So come down the back end with me. One of the things we noticed as well was snow tyres on the front. But not only snow tyres on the front, Yokohama's on the rear. Weird? I don't know. Sway bars, diff bracings, aftermarket trailing arms. This whole subframe, rear subframe assembly in here is from a GD STi. So is the diff. So is that little protection bash plate on there. The keen eyes will also notice this is not 22B. That diffuser there is from a GD STi, and obviously an aftermarket exhaust, which that's acceptable, I suppose, in terms of the 22B modifying land. But yeah, there's a lot on it. So mud flaps on the rear. This whole rear end's got to be changed. All of this under here is all GD STi.
Yeah, and I can even see some of the badges up here.
Badging, yes. So we'll pull this down in a second and have a look. But we've got STi on there. We've also have the WR Limited badge on there. So yes, it's got a lot on it.
All right,
let's take it down. Welcome. So in here again, modified to the teeth. So the previous owner in Japan definitely loved his mods. So you have a bit of a scan around, you'll notice first thing, a lot of gauges. We've got a Zero Sports gauge pod up here, which is cool. Maybe not in the 22B. The problem is the top of this dash is actually matte, so these are unique to the 22Bs. So we're gonna have to find a new top lid for that. Has been converted to a push button start, a Pexi Power FC hand controller there. We've got some more gauges in the A pillar up the top. Steering wheel, outside looks like it is 22B. Inside with this gnarly horn, not so much. Keen eyes will notice the 6-speed shifter selector here. The at least the 22B plaque is still here, so number 258 out of 400. We've got the Pexi controller here, aftermarket head unit, some little fascia plate on here, some speakers up on the dash. We've even got LED lighting in the top there, and some other little weird little trims and bits. So you notice in here the center differential control. Again, all the GC8 nerds will know that that's not the original one for this one. So that'll be for the later model 6-speed. Even the handbrake boot there is an aftermarket one. So plenty to change in here, but fortunately for us, it's nothing too drastic. Pedals, it's got some aftermarket pedal covers on it as well. Turbo timer hanging there as well. The main thing I was worried about in here as well was the condition of the seats, which they're in really, really good condition, and also the door cards. I was almost expecting to have some big aftermarket speakers in those. Fortunately, they've been spared. So that's about it in here. We'll jump outside, have a look at the exterior, the brakes, and then I'll show you the engine bay. Alrighty guys, welcome to the back of a 22B. So first thing you'll notice is the STi and the WR Limited badges there, as well as the different taillights. These are like the sort of Australian spec ones with the orange down the bottom. They should really have the clear all the way across. So why, I don't know, but we'll fix it up. That may have been an Australian compliance thing when it came over. So yeah, it will be going back to the original. Mud flaps need to go. Bon voyage, those things will be heading on their way to the bin. Brembo brakes down in there. Love it or hate it, the 6-speed and Brembos are such a staple for modifying Subarus, so look, each to their own. I think it's a nice upgrade, maybe not on a 22B, but look, a lot of people, when we did post this car up, were really excited that it had 6-speed and Brembos, but unfortunately the owner wants it all original, so they are coming off. Brembos up the front, aftermarket brake rotors on there, and this is where all the fun is, up the front in the engine bay. Bang, look at that. Not a whole lot of original 22B left in here. So we have a blue manifold. Originally it should have been red. We have all sorts of paint happening here on the alternator. Classic JDM earthing kit. We've got all these sort of covers on the oil caps, all the fluid reservoirs, catch can, a washer bottle reservoir in there. The battery's actually been relocated to the boot, so there's a nice little tray in there, and it also has a 12 litre Spec intercooler spray bottle in the back as well. Aftermarket pulleys on the front of the motor, cold air intake, alarm system, strut bar. There was a big oil cooler sitting on top of here, which utilised the scoop now that it had a front mount. It's got a Zero Sports turbo on it, heat shields, Cusco brace stopper. I mean, there's nothing really in this engine bay that hasn't been touched. Even the radiator is aftermarket, and the ARC cooling plate as well. So fuel regulator. I think the only thing really in here that is still somewhat 22B is the bottom end, which is the 2.2 litre, and also luckily the red timing covers have been spared. So yeah, plenty of work to do inside this engine bay for sure.
Okay, there you go guys, we've just taken that tour around the 22B, which is completely fucked. But now, what I want to know though, Kyle, and I'm sure everybody else wants to know, is what sort of dollars would need to be spent on bringing something like this car, which it has a lot of modifications.
Yep.
Back to an OEM spec car, especially in this engine bay. I mean, just look at them, even the manifold, not expensive to get a new
Restored
red,
manifold,
yeah, but it's everything else as well.
Yeah.
And can you even find the parts?
Look, luckily there is still a few guys within the scene that still look after these 22Bs and still reproduce parts. So to answer your first question, how much is it going to cost? Well over $50,000 in this particular vehicle.
Well, you said that fast.
$50,000 Australian at least.
$50,000
Yep.
on top of the purchase price of this car.
price.
Now, we're not going to disclose the purchase price, just so you know, but it was at auction. Maybe you can hunt it down, but just we want to keep that private for the owner.
Yep.
Yeah,
so look, it's going to be at least $50,000 or thereabouts in parts, right? So we now have to find a 22B gearbox, we have to find original brakes, we have to find the original rear end, we have to find cross members, sumps, a lot. We have to find a lot. Strut bars we have to find, they aren't cheap, they're about $1,000 to $1,500
just for
for
strut bar.
a replacement strut bar.
And just think about the suspension that I just got on my 22.
Yes.
Which was about 15,000 Australian dollars delivered from over in the UK.
Yep, so look, the only really place in the world you can buy that genuine 22B and WRC suspension gear is in the UK. So we have to get it from there. A lot of our parts will be coming from the UK.
And that's because of the affiliation with ProDrive?
Yes, with ProDrive, yes, and the community over there. So yes, a lot of parts coming from the UK. Shout out to Ali Burrows from Ali Burrows Motorsport.
Absolutely.
Looking after us, not only on this one, but a few other vehicles as well. So a lot of parts coming over for this one. You can still find them, but yeah, you're not getting them for cheap. So a lot of parts to go back in it, and it's not only just replacing it with parts, it's making sure that they're the right parts for the 22B.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff does cross over from a Type R, but you got to make sure it's the right stuff.
Yeah, and the thing with this one too, guys, is the kilometres are quite good. So it's only 70-odd thousand.
About 72,000 thereabouts.
Which is pretty low. My car has 130-odd thousand kilometres, but it's mostly in original condition.
Yes, very much so.
So I think by the time you could spend easily $100,000 on this
Easy.
car.
Yep. Parts, labour, and if you wanted to do things like refresh the paint.
So I think, guys, when
Yeah.
you're looking at buying a 22B, this is obviously some of the interesting things that we've now come up with, have purchased my 22, and for this gentleman have purchased this one with a lot of aftermarket parts and things that you want to change. Is where's the value for money? Would you then consider, you'd have to think about over-capitalising on the car too. You could spend, I think you could spend more than 100 on this car.
Absolutely, yeah. Look, if you wanted to do a full concourse rebuild of this thing, yes, you can definitely strip everything out of it. You can paint the underside, seal it. You can do the interior, whole external paint, engine bay. You can refresh. I mean, even the motor you can pull out and spend $20,000 on that. So you sort of have to figure out where you want to spend and what you want to do with the vehicle. Look, if you're buying it to sort of freshen up and sell, definitely don't want to over-capitalise, but they're not making any more of these things. Well, ProDrive is, but then they're nowhere near the same as these. So look, if you've got one, low kilometres, it's a dream car, and you're going to hang on to it for a while, definitely spend the money.
Yeah.
Definitely spend the money.
All right, there you go, guys. You've just had a fantastic look at a completely fucked up 22B.
Alrighty.